Hi, first grade. Today we are starting our new domain. We are now on domain 7, and it is called The History of the Earth. Today's lesson is Our Home, Earth. Our learning targets for today are to review where you live as it relates to the planet Earth, identify features of Earth, demonstrate an understanding of the word surface, and draw and write about features of the Earth. Our key vocabulary are equator, geologist, geology, pressure, and surface. The equator is the imaginary line around the middle of the Earth that divides it into two equal halves, a northern half and a southern half. Okay. Isabel is from Ecuador, which is a country in South America near the equator. So this is South America, and it says that she lives near the equator. So she's going to live close to this red line. Now, there's not really a red line that splits our Earth up into two halves, okay? It's imaginary. It's just, think about it like invisible, okay? Excuse me. Geologist. A geologist is a scientist who studies rocks and what's inside the earth. A geologist spoke to the class about her studies in Hawaii. Geology. Geology is the study of the earth. In his spare time, he reads books to learn more about geology, which means he's learning more about the earth. All right, pressure. Pressure is the continuous force of weight created when something presses or pushes against something else. The nutcracker helped the girl create enough pressure to crack the walnut open. So pressure is the force that you are of something against something else. So if you take your hands and you push them really, really hard, that's pressure, okay? Surface. We've had this vocabulary word before. Remember, surface is the outside or top layer of something. She wiped the surface of the table with a wet cloth after dinner. This will be the surface of this phone. All right, so the name of this domain is the history of the earth. History means something that happened in the past. What planet do we live on? You should all know this. Earth. Scientists know the planet has existed for many, many years. Many scientists believe that planet Earth is billions of years old. A billion is a very, very long number, which means that the Earth is very, very old. Scientists are always discovering new things about the Earth and the universe. Hey, we learned that in our astronomy unit. The history of the Earth tells the fascinating things that are or have been part of the Earth since its beginning. We will be learning about rocks and minerals, fossils, volcanoes, and geysers. What kinds of things do you already know about those topics? All right, so we are going to do this activity again. We did this when we were doing our astronomy unit. So we are going to look at a globe. Then we are going to look at the city that we live in, or I guess we'll have to work our way down from the globe, right? So we're going to look at the Earth from outer space. Then we're going to zoom in until we can see the continents, and we'll find the continent that we live on. Remember, continents are chunks of land. We live on the continent of North America. And then we're going to zoom into our country, which is the United States of America. And then we're going to zoom into our state, which is North Carolina. And then we are going to zoom into our city, which is Lexington, okay? So, go to Google Earth. Woohoo! Come on. Here we go. So here is our Earth, right? Now, anybody know which continent this is? I'll give you a hint. This is the continent that we live on. Remember, it's the continent, not the country. So the continent is North America, okay? Oh, and guys, that equator, it's going to be right around here, okay? That's going to be about your equator. But that's South America right there. We are going to look at North America, right? Because that's the continent we live on. Then we are going to zoom in until we find our country. I'm starting to see the outline. Look at that. The beautiful United States of America right there, guys. Here it is, okay? Woo. There's Florida and Texas and California, okay? So now we are going to zoom into our state. I'm starting to see some states. Oh, I found North Carolina. Do you see North Carolina? North Carolina is east. It's on the east coast, meaning it's near the water on the east. It's over on this side. Anybody see it? North Carolina. I found it right here. Woohoo! All right, now here is North Carolina, and it's starting to fill in some cities. So there's North Carolina. And if we zoom in a little more, so we've got what cities? I see Charlotte and Concord and Winston-Salem and High Point and Greensboro and Asheboro. And if we zoom in, we're going to be over here somewhere. Ready? Start looking for Lexington. Starts with an L. I see it. Does anybody else see it? Whoop, here we go. Lexington. Awesome. There's Lexington. And if we come over here in Lexington, hey, look at that! That's where our school would be. But when they took the picture, it wasn't there yet, okay? That is the land that our school is built on. Pretty cool, right? So let's go back to our slideshow. All right. So even though it seems like the ground we stand on is flat and still, we actually live on a tiny part of a huge sphere or ball, just like the globe we just looked at. This huge sphere is called Earth, and it is always moving in space. The planet we live on is just one of the 8 within our solar system. But we already knew that, right? Because you guys are astronomers. The Earth is covered by both land and water. Okay, when we look at our globe, the clear parts on this globe are the water, and then the colored parts are the continents. Okay, and the continents are big pieces of land, right? And the water are often referred to as oceans. Okay. Here we go. All right, remember, my globe is in my way. Okay. Remember our key vocabulary. We have equator, which is that invisible line around the middle of our globe. Geologist, which is somebody who studies the earth. Geology, which is the study of the earth. Pressure, which is that pushing or pressing, right? And then surface, which is the top of something. All right. Today, you are going to meet an interesting scientist who knows a lot about the Earth. Listen carefully to learn more about the Earth. Hello, kids. My name is Jerry, and I'm a geologist. Let's call him Jerry, the geologist, okay? Do you hear the beginning sound of Jerry and geologist? Jerry, geologist. Are those the same sound, same beginning sounds? They are. That's called alliteration. So if we had kicking kangaroo, if we had sleepy spider, okay, anything that starts with the same sound, that's alliteration, okay? Anyway, a geologist is a type of scientist. A scientist studies and learns all about the world in which we live. Geologists are scientists who study rocks and what's inside the earth. That's right, rocks. From pebbles to stones to boulders, from a grain of sand to the highest mountain, rocks are everywhere. And I want you to know all about rocks, from how they are created to how they are used in people's everyday lives. People used rocks to make jewels on this crown. Do you see the jewels? Ooh, which one's your favorite? I like the green one. People used rocks to make buildings, walls, and streets. Hang on a second. Time out of our read aloud. Who is that? That's Abraham Lincoln. We learned about him. Honest Abe. We love Honest Abe. All right, back to our story. Time in. A sculptor carved a big rock to make this sculpture of Abraham Lincoln. Geologists used rocks to learn about the earth. In ancient Greek language, the word geo means earth and ology means the study of. When we combine these word parts, we have geology, or just geology, which is the study of the earth. Since the earth is mostly made up of rock, we geologists spend most of our time studying rocks. Many of the rocks we see on the surface, or top, of the earth, many of the rocks we see on the surface of the earth, from mountains down to pebbles, are created by incredible forces at work deep inside the earth. So the surface, remember, is the outside or top layer of the earth. We walk and live on the surface of the earth. Have you ever wondered about what's inside the earth or under the surface that we walk on? Thus, geologists study not only rocks, but also the forces at work inside of the earth and on the earth's surface. We study the whole earth. That's a lot. So, what's geology the study of? Earth. And what does each part of the word geology mean? Remember, what's geo mean? Geo means earth. And ology means the study of, right? Some scientists believe the history of the earth all begins a little over 4.5 billion years ago. Okay. That is a long time ago. A very, very, very long time ago. Before that, some scientists believe the materials that now make up Earth were orbiting or floating around our newly formed sun as billions of little bits and pieces. Over many, many years, it is believed by some scientists that these floating bits and pieces gradually stuck together until they made up Earth, as well as its neighbor, the Moon, and other planets. When it was newly formed, Earth was basically one big ball of hot, melted rocks. Over time, however, some of these materials cooled and hardened, allowing the planet Earth to become what it is today. Maybe you already know that Earth is a planet. Earth is one of 8 major planets that orbits the sun. You guys know that. Which one's Earth? Point to Earth. Earth is this one right here, third from the sun. Do you remember what the other ones were? Who was closest to the sun? Mercury. Who came next? Who is the one that is Earth's sister planet, also named after the goddess of love? Venus. And then Earth. And then Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. Okay? Like the other planets in the solar system, Earth is trapped in a gravitational pull of the sun. This causes Earth to orbit or revolve around the sun. It takes about 1 year or 365 days for Earth to complete an orbit around the sun. The Earth's orbit around the sun is not the only way Earth moves in space. This map shows Earth's north and south poles. So the star is the north pole and the circle is the south pole. Okay. The north and south poles are imaginary points on the northernmost and southernmost parts of Earth. The axis of rotation is like an imaginary line or stick going right through the Earth at north and south poles. Okay. There's not really a stick running through the Earth which it turns. The axis is an imaginary line around which Earth rotates. The Earth rotates or spins the same way that the globe spins on its axis. Okay? Spinning like this. Rotates. Okay? My south pole is down here. My north pole is up here. So pretend that there's an imaginary stick in the middle, which this globe spins on. Okay? All right. The Earth rotates or spins in the same way that the globe spins on its axis. It takes 1 day or 24 hours for Earth to make a complete rotation. We knew this. This is just a review. The map also shows the equator, an imaginary line around the middle of the Earth. Where's the equator on this one? Here it is, right here. Okay. The equator divides the Earth into 2 equal halves. The area along the equator receives the most direct sunlight and is therefore generally the warmest area on the surface of the Earth. So the closer that you live to the equator, which is the imaginary line that splits our globe in half from north to south, the closer that you live to that imaginary line, the hotter it's going to be. Okay. Earth is sphere-shaped like a ball, and it is surrounded by a thick blanket of air called an atmosphere, where clouds float around. Most of the Earth's surface is covered with water in the form of the 5 oceans. Okay. We've got the Pacific Ocean, the Atlantic Ocean, the Indian Ocean, the Arctic Ocean, and the Southern Ocean, or the Antarctic Ocean. And between these oceans, there is land in the form of 7 continents: North America, South America, Europe, Africa, Asia, Australia, and Antarctica. People haven't always known that the Earth is round or that it rotates on its axis as well as orbits the sun. They haven't always known that there are 5 oceans and 7 continents, or that most of the surface is covered in water. It has taken hundreds of years for scientists and explorers to develop all the knowledge about the Earth that I just described in the last few minutes. But this barely begins to scratch the surface of what we know about the history of the Earth. Okay. There are 3 important words you need to keep in mind whenever you are thinking about geology, which is the study of the Earth. Heat is the first one. You can feel heat from a flame or from the sun on a sunny day. Heat causes many changes to the Earth. The word pressure, the second word is pressure, like the force you use when you push on something. Okay. Okay. Pressure, or the force of weight, also causes many changes to the Earth. Time. Time is the third geology word to remember. To understand geology, you need to think about time in a whole new way. Forget about minutes, hours, and days. These amounts of times don't mean much in geology. Geologists think in terms of many, many years. Remember how long ago 4.5 billion years was? It takes a long time for pressure and heat to do what they do. So we're going to come up with hand motions for you to remember our three important words that we need to remember. So go like this. Your hands should start to feel warm, okay? So this is going to help us remember heat. So everybody go, heat. Now I want you to squeeze your hands together and I want you to say pressure, because remember, pressure is the pushing or the pressing. Pressure. And then time. I want you to pretend like you have a watch on and tap your watch, okay? And say time. Okay, what's this one? Heat. This one? Pressure. That one? Time. Okay. The Grand Canyon, located in Arizona, provides a lot of clues about the Earth's formation and history. It took millions of years for the rushing water in the river to carve through the rocks to make this canyon. No other place on Earth allows me to see and study so many different layers of rock at the same time. The rock on the upper rim of the Grand Canyon is estimated by some scientists to be about 230 million years old, whereas the rock layers at the very bottom of the canyon are estimated to have been formed 2 billion years ago. That rock is half as old as the Earth is believed to be itself. What? So the rock that is up here is 230 million years old, and this one down here is 2 billion years old. That's old rocks. Remember, heat, pressure, and time are the main factors of geology. If you understand those three words, then you are ready to move ahead and learn many things about the history of the Earth. Okay, ready? Let's see if we can remember all of them. Heat, pressure, and time. Okay. All right. If you need to hop up and get a wiggle break, go ahead and do so. If not, let's get started. All right. What does Jerry the geologist study? He studies rocks, right? To learn about the Earth. How are rocks used by people? They can be put in jewelry, making buildings, making art, okay? Have you ever used rocks? What shape is the Earth? It's sphere-shaped, right? Like a ball. Okay. What do we call the land on the surface of the Earth? Continents. And what do we call the water on the surface of the Earth? Oceans. Good. What are the North and South poles? The North Pole is the northernmost point on Earth. Okay. The South Pole is the southmost point on Earth. Okay. What's the equator? The imaginary line that splits our Earth into north and south, okay, and it goes across. Do you remember people who live close to the equator? Is it going to be hotter there or is it going to be colder there? It's going to be hotter, okay? So when we talk about the history of the Earth, we are talking about a short time or a long time? A long time, right? Like billions of years. So what are some of the features about Earth? Tell me some things about Earth. Features are things about it. Think about its shape is a feature. So what shape is it? It's a sphere. So that's one feature. It has a what pole and a what pole? A North Pole and a South Pole. It has an equator. It's got land, which we call continents. It's got water, which we call oceans, okay? And what's it mostly made up out of? Rocks. All right, word work time. In the read aloud you heard, many of the rocks we see on the surface of the earth, from mountains down to pebbles, are created by incredible forces at work deep inside the earth. Can you say the word surface for me? Surface. The surface of something is the outside or top layer of it. Okay. I put the tea kettle on the surface of the stove. Have you ever put something on the surface of an object, such as a table or a desk? Try to use the word surface when you tell about it. What's the word we've been talking about? Surface. All right, guys, let's make sure that we have hit our learning objectives. Did we talk about where we lived on Earth? Yeah, we looked at the globe, right? Did we identify features of the Earth? Remember, features are things about the Earth. So did we talk about its shape and things that it had, like the equator and the North Pole? Yeah, right? Did we practice using the word surface? Yes, we did. And then you are going to draw and write about the features of the earth. So you might talk, or you might draw and write about the pieces of land, which are called continents, or the pieces of water, which are called oceans. You might have talked about the North Pole and the South Pole, maybe the equator, maybe about the shape, which is a sphere, okay? And you're going to draw and write about those features. All right, guys, see you next time.